Hello, everyone, and welcome to Merari's Industry 4.0 show. I am your host, Brad Wade. Thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a show of Industry 4.0, and we're coming to you live from Merari's XR studio inside of Centropolis, which is the accelerator on Lawrence Technological University's campus. So thank you again for joining me, and now we're going to discover and talk about all things Industry 4.0. Now, Industry 4.0 is a phrase that maybe a lot of us have heard, but what really is it? Now, Industry 4.0 is really, you see things like 1.0, 2.0, and 4.0 is just like that. Industry 4.0 is the version of industry where a major change has happened. And let's take a look at this. You'll see a graphic right here, and it talks about all the different versions of what's happened in the Industrial Revolution, if you will. Industry 1.0 was the Industrial Revolution, where we used water power and steam power to work with mechanization and production and productivity. Now, Industry 2.0, that's basically mass production. And you can think about it, that was the beginning of the 19th century, early in the 19th century, things like the assembly line. Think about the automotive plants. Well, mass production assembly line was Industry 2.0, if you will. Now let's move ahead to roughly the 70s and 80s. And that's where we're talking about computers and automation. That was what we considered like the third major leap in manufacturing, in production, if you will. So basically in industry, so that's Industry 3.0 in the 70s and 80s. Now we find ourselves at a new time in industry, production, and manufacturing. And we call this Industry 4.0. And you'll see it described sometimes as cyber physical systems. But what does that mean today? What does that mean today in a world of emerging technology, things advancing at such a rapid pace and so much innovation? So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself, and then we're going to start exploring a little bit more about the categories under Industry 4.0. Now, I got my start into emerging technology in the classroom. I was a classroom teacher for 15 years. And back in 2012, I discovered augmented reality for the first time. Now, I had an idea. I brought it to my classroom and I said, well, let me see how the students react to this. Watch this. Wow. And I'll tell you, it was absolutely amazing. I saw the power firsthand of augmented reality. So what I did is I spent one full year rewriting lesson plans and experiences to engage students. And I saw something I'd never seen before. I saw an engagement level so deep that I knew that if I could engage my students, I could get any learning outcome I wanted. Well, that led to a complete revolution in my own world. How I taught, how I interacted, everything I did. So in 2013, I started a meetup group with some people here in Detroit called AR Detroit. And that's where my journey started to evolve. After AR Detroit, I ended up leaving the classroom and making the world my classroom. Now, where Industry 4.0 comes in for me was around November 2017, I was on my way to Malaysia. I was going to Kuala Lumpur to meet some colleagues of mine to do some work. And I met an entrepreneur there, and he was already talking about Industry 4.0. I'll put their contact information in there. But I was lucky enough to have dinner with him. You'll see me and a friend of mine and him were having dinner. And we started really talking about Industry 4.0 and all the things it could do to reskilling workers, to innovate industry, for smart manufacturing. And I really got fascinated because I had already been in the AR, VR, XR world and working with those emerging technologies. But then when I started learning and getting to know more about Industry 4.0, machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data, IoT, all those things started coming into play. And I started looking at it from a global view. So I started learning and working on what does Industry 4.0 mean and what can it do for industry worldwide? And that's where my journey really took off for the next level that I'm at right now. And that was 2017. So now that I've given you a little bit of background, let's look at basically there are 9 components to Industry 4.0. Now, if you do look, those will vary. What the 9 are called will vary a little bit depending on where you go for resources. But we'll take a look at the 9 that I'm going to use on this graphics. I like how they're explained and how clean they are. So here are the 9. As you can see, one of the first ones is autonomous robots, and then system integration, IoT, which is Internet of Things, simulation, which also could be called digital twin, which you'll hear that language a lot. Then we're talking about additive manufacturing, cloud computing, AR, which is augmented reality. That is now being broken into AR, VR, XR, a little bit broader. And then we're talking about big data, which is incredible. And then cybersecurity. Now, the purpose of this show, as you go along through the series, we're going to always be talking about one of those categories and one of those segments. What we do is we're going to talk about them, but we're also going to meet the people and the businesses that are making headway and being innovative and making a difference in the landscape right now. So that's what this is all going to be about. Now, we're going to talk about things. Let's just use something like IoT and big data as an example. So Internet of Things, smart machines are connected. Well, what do you do? There's something called legacy machines that are not connected, don't have all these new sensors and stuff. And then there's smart machines. We're even going to talk about what does the transition look like going from a legacy machine to a smart machine? What does big data mean? How do we dive into and analyze that data and use that to make our companies more productive, more efficient, use that information for innovation? So we're going to explore all of those different categories, and I'm excited that you're here joining us. And I just wanted to talk about, so as you can see, we're in the XR Lab for Mirari. Mirari is the sponsor of this show. They're working closely with Centropolis, the accelerator here, Lawrence Technological University, Automation Alley, and others, a lot of companies. We're in Southeast Michigan, but the impact of what we're doing is worldwide. Because what we want for you is we want you to be educated. We also want you to think about, well, how can this impact my business, my industry, my vertical, wherever you are? So we're hoping to give you resources, education, and connect you to people that can help you along that journey. All right, as we start wrapping things up today, thank you for joining me today. Please connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and let's continue this conversation going. Leave comments, share with me, ask questions, stop by my Facebook page and Instagram. But please be sure to stop by our sponsor. Mirari's doing amazing things. I'm so honored to be working with them. They do all things AR, VR, XR. Please stop by, check them out today at mirari.us. Thank you for joining us today, and stay connected.